for something.
Now,
While we're waiting for this 2 minutes, I wanted to say for the 24th of
There's
August,
No, not August.
but historically, on the 24th,
Oh,
we only
I
had
in it.
150 people,
That one.
cousins that checked in,
Yes.
but only 100 were
That's
able
a
to.
lot.
Yes, yes,
speak.
yes.
So Elaine has boosted it up to 500, so we expect at least 200, 250 that to join with us. So the audience is growing, and we're happy, very happy about that.
so far I have 233 email addresses for the Earl family, which is wonderful. And Becky Smith, I'm so glad that you added to that list. We needed more of the Hardys. So thank you, everyone.
More
looking
will be
for
coming.
relatives. Wonderful. Well, there's so many. I was going to introduce everyone, even those who I don't know, but I have the 16-page list in front of me to say who you all are related to, or I mean, descended from. But anyway, there's just so many. Maybe we can do that afterward. But we have Glenn Stewart here, who's representing Aunt Lois.
Okay, Glenn is on then.
Yes. Glenn
Okay,
is
well,
on.
let me announce, this is Bob Wells speaking and emceeing the program. The last August 24th, or July 24th, it was a great success. We're very happy. We're building on that. All of you that are already reporting in, thanks again. The business, the agenda is we will hear from a member, and I actually knew these three aunts and one uncle. I knew them as a boy. So we're going to hear from Aunt Lois Jones's representative, from Aunt Elithra Cox's family, Uncle Ira Earl's family, and Aunt Nettie Levitt's family. Those are the four families that will be reporting if there's somebody that shows up. So we'll start.
Wait, you were going to tell a story.
Well, let's see. I'd rather start with the.
Just start with a short little story.
Okay, short little story. Grandmother Viola Earl, I remember her visits as a little boy because she was the first one that objected to our drinking root beer. Now, in those days, we had no refrigeration, and we made root beer out of fermented yeast and let it get some kick to it. And Grandmother Viola was horrified. She said, even the name is evil. Even the name comes from Satan. Satan is trying to make something to distract the good Mormons with. Your family, she was warning my mother that if she let her children drink fermented root beer, why we would grow up a taste for alcoholic beverages and so on. So my mother stood up for root beer, homemade root beer, as being non-alcoholic, and I appreciated my mother's attitude on that. Grandfather Earl, this is Grandfather Joseph Ira Earl. What I remember most about him was his mustache and how funny he was when he drank milk. He drank warm milk with foam on it directly from the cow, and had all of this foam on his mustache. And anytime he had soup, why he had this soup spread all across his beard, his
Mustache.
bigote, his mustache. And anyway, he also, to wash his beard, he would go to the kitchen. They did not have running water in the kitchen. What they had was a pump, a hand pump that went down to a cistern underneath that was fed from the irrigation ditch outside. And so periodically they would fill the cistern with irrigation water, then let it settle, and then pump from that. And that was the water that he would wash his beard with. So that's my memory stories to begin this first go around. So let's switch now to Glenn Stewart.
Now, one little note, I've muted everybody, but when my dad calls on you, then please unmute yourself. Thanks.
Okay, so Glenn, you have to unmute yourself. Can we get a report from?
Already.
No, this is.
Yes, I've unmuted myself.
Wonderful.
I'm not very good at this. This is only my second time of doing a Zoom meeting. So we'll see how it goes. And every once in a while I get a message saying my internet connection is unstable. So hopefully it'll hold on.
Why does it
I'm here
look
to
at
talk
us? They trying to
about
mute
Grandma
us?
Lois. She was a marvelous
Bed,
lady.
they're unmuted.
I remember her, we would go to Salt Lake fairly often for family activities. She had a very close family. All of her daughters and her son loved her very much and came for many activities. And I got to know all of them very well. When I knew her, she was always wearing an apron and busy in the kitchen. And every time she fed us, we had bread and butter pickles in a little dish in the middle of the table, which seemed to be the thing that she liked to serve along with whatever meal we were having. So she was a wonderful lady. She was born on the 1st of January in 1881 in Bunkerville. Of course, all of you or many of you know that back then there were no hospitals and doctors. It was the neighborhood wives who came to allow a person to have a baby. And this was her mother, Aletha Calista. And Lois was always a smart girl and interested in school. She, back then, she worked in the farm like everybody else. And it was reported that she picked cotton, helped bale it, sent it off to be carded and woven into cloth so that they could make clothes. So they did everything on the barter system, and they all survived and lived together there in Little Bunkerville. It was a 2-day trip to get to St. George and probably a 4 or 5 day trip to get to Cedar City. When she was 14, and by the way, I'm getting this all from Rita Nash's book, who journaled and chronicled her parents. And I borrowed it from Richard Nash, give him props. At 14, she went to Cedar City to go to school. And that was high school. She had to take a test in order to get in, and she passed so that she could go to high school. She boarded at 2 different people's houses while she lived in Cedar City. And she completed 4 years of school there, or high school. And that was the education she needed to later get her teaching certificate. In order to get a teaching certificate, back then, you had to take a test. And you had to go to places like Panaca. If anyone knows where Panaca is, raise their hand. Okay, a few people. Panaca is just inside the border of Nevada, due west from Cedar City. And so even further for her to travel to take the test. She passed that, and she loved teaching and taught for a number of years until she was married in Mesquite, in the Mesquite school system. An interesting story that my mother tells, she also taught in the school system in Mesquite. And one of Lois's students was the father of one of her students. And he came up to Irma and said, "You know, you're a better teacher than your mother." Well, Irma couldn't resist telling Lois that, but it didn't make Lois happy. I don't know why that would be, but Lois didn't take that news very well, according to Irma. Now, when Lois was finished with high school, she came back to a great welcome in Bunkerville. Here she was, a lady that had gone off to school, a popular girl in Bunkerville, a smart girl. And so the townspeople gathered around to see what she was going to be like. And so it was reported that she came out of her house in bloomers and socks. Anyone know what those are? Those are big baggy pants and socks from the knee down. And she climbed up on a horse and rode it like a man. And the ladies in town were shocked. And they said to the girls, would you do that? And they said, absolutely. If Lois can do it, we can do it. So Lois always was right out there and a trendsetter. She learned and knew the gospel well. She knew the scriptures well. And she saw her husband riding down the street. He was living in Overton, came to Bunkerville. She saw him and she said, I felt a little twinge as I saw Willard Jones drive by. And so when he asked me out, I said, okay. And on our first date, when he took me home, I told him I had papers to grade and I'd see him later. She went in and her mother said, that's no way to treat a young man if you want him to come back. And so she wrote him a little letter and said she had a marvelous time and hoped he'd invite her again. And of course he did, and they were married.
Oh.
She had 6 girls and 1 boy, and they were all capable people who went to school. They made sure they all went to school, went to college, got a good education, and were all very capable ladies and gentlemen. Her husband served as a stake president for 27 years in the Moapa Valley Stake, headquartered in Overton, and she was right there along with him. They were equally yoked, as it was said. She could speak well, write well, and she gave many talks, as did he. For those of you who don't know what equally yoked means, when you have a team, if they're both equally powerful and are willing to start right on time, they can outpull and outwork any other team of even bigger horses. So equally yoked means that they were really compatible and totally committed to the gospel throughout all their life. When I knew them, they had moved to Salt Lake City and they had purchased a 3-story home right across the street from the state capitol. And once again, what was their retirement? It was taking in boarders. They always had people living upstairs, living in apartments, sometimes even living in the front bedroom while they used the back bedroom and shared a bathroom. So they just were always involved with other people. He served in the temple, as did she, for many years while they were in Salt Lake. He was a sealer, and he was also in the presidency of the temple for a time. And so he and she gave great service to the church, who were totally committed to it. The story that I would like to tell is that the thing that she did for me that was the best thing in my life was on my 16th birthday, she gave me a Book of Mormon. Now, that was nice, but what she wrote in it was, Glenn, read Alma chapter 36, verse 3. It is one of our favorite scriptures. So I read that scripture, and that has been a cornerstone of my life. For as the scripture says, I know that the Lord has supported me through my trials, and hopefully, if I live worthy, will allow me to rise at the last day. That one scripture has meant so much to me. So I would advise all of you to come up with a favorite scripture of yours and pass it along to your grandchildren. Maybe it'll have a bearing on their life as this one has had on me. That's what I'd like to say about my wonderful grandma, Lois.
Thank you ever so much. We've just heard from cousin Glenn Stewart. Great report, exemplary, and we just hope that everybody else will follow this example. So congratulations and thank you, Glenn. Thanks again. We're proud of it. Proud of Aunt Lois and Uncle Will. I knew them both as a boy. Will,
Is any other family member allowed to speak?
okay.
Um,
Now we're waiting
yeah,
for
well,
somebody.
hold on, Daddy, someone's raising their hand. Now it says Jim Hartzell, but tell me your name.
I'm Patricia.
Patricia, hi.
I'm Glenn's younger sister.
Of
And I
course.
just had a couple of things I wanted to add because I love what he had to say. During the time that Grandpa Jones was the stake president, Grandma, I think it was like for 15 years, was the Stake Relief Society president. I don't know how they did that at the same time, but that is one thing that really amazed me. And the other thing is when they lived up across the street from the Capitol in Salt Lake City, and I knew that they had been in the Temple presidency there. The other thing that really impressed me was that Grandma Lois taught a weekly class in the Lion House. And I thought she must be really smart to be able to do that. She also had long hair when I was young and would take her hair down from the bun and we would comb it at night. And she also sewed temple aprons while she would watch her favorite soap opera, As the World Turns. So just a little bit more information about my dear grandma. Thank you, Glenn. That was great.
Thanks for adding that. Now, is there anyone representing Alethra Cox?
Let's see,
Bob?
someone, Earl, you're
Oh,
raising your
Earl.
hand.
Can I add one story here on Aunt Lois? I think I've mentioned this before, but the memory stays with me from being a little boy at one of the family reunions, probably 60 to 70 years ago in Las Vegas. I remember as a young boy, very young, I think we were staying at Uncle John's home, and I was out playing in the farm, and all of a sudden I heard my mother call for me to come back into the house. And I came back in and she said, Earl, I want you to meet Aunt Lois. And I came in and there was something about Aunt Lois that was regal and royal and just utterly dignified. And I could recognize that as a little boy, maybe 6 or 7 years old. And I remember how her sisters and my mother, how they spoke to Aunt Lois. It was different. It was as if they were speaking to royalty. And I remember her voice just as wonderful and as loving as can be. And I don't know how, there's a lot of things that I don't know 60, 70 years ago, but that one event has stayed with me of an image of a very wonderful, wonderful person. I never got to know her. I never was able to speak a long time with her, but I could see just as a little boy how her sisters treated her and my impressions of the few things she said to me at that one time. And I don't know, is that description, is that typical of what others thought of Aunt Lois? I
Yes.
assume it was.
Yes, everybody honored her and respected her greatly as the senior sister, so to speak, of the entire family.
Okay.
I also want to add, Uncle Will Jones always complained that all other stake presidents got to choose their counselors, but the apostle that called him as the president of the stake, the first president of the stake, said you have to have Sam Wells as a counselor if you don't choose him as the stake president. And so he was told by the apostle that he had to have Sam Wells, my grandfather, as a counselor. Now, we're ready to see if there's anyone with Aunt Alethra Cox family.
There we go. We've got Mary Ann. Are you raising your hand? No? Okay.
No, we'll
Let's
go
see.
on then.
Wait, hold on. If you are representing Alethra Callista Earl Cox, please unmute yourself and speak up. Well, I don't know who was supposed to. We've got,
It was supposed to be Sister Cheryl Stuckey
Oh, she
From-
was on.
from Sister Stuckey.
Yeah, I saw, there she is. Okay, Cheryl, I see your name. You just need to unmute yourself. So down at the bottom left, and I don't see you on video either, down at the bottom left of your screen, you want to click on unmute and you want to click on start video. So I see that you're on. Oh, there we go. You're connecting now. Okay,
Okay,
Cheryl.
your microphone is on. Go ahead.
Cheryl, we can, I think, well, it says you're connecting to audio, but we don't see your face yet. So make sure that you start video as well. And start speaking. Let's see if we can hear you. Nope, it just says connecting to audio, but we don't hear you yet.
Shall we go on and then go back to her later?
Well, let's give her just a second. Cheryl. Yeah. Okay, Cheryl, can you hear us? Nope. All right. Well, Cheryl, while you figure that out, we're going to go on to the next one.
Let's go on to Uncle Ira's family. Uncle Ira's family is being represented by Jerry Earl, son of Dr. Don Earl, the BYU opera professor and great musician. Jerry, are you on?
Yeah, hi, can you hear me all right?
I can hear you.
Okay.
I don't
sounds
see
good.
you.
Let's
Oh, he said he can't see you.
put it on
you
speaker.
can't see me?
There's
Oh, there
Jerry.
we go. Handsome man. Go
Is
ahead.
somebody behind me?
You're speaking, Jerry. You're representing, reporting
Okay.
on Uncle Ira's family.
Well, I didn't know my grandpa Ira. I was 1 year and 9 days old when he passed away. So most everything I got was from the book, Joseph Ira Earl family, and also from the Clark County website had quite a bit about him. And then a few things I found on the internet about some related topics. But I'll just read what I found, and here we go. Ira Joseph Earl was born in Bunkerville, Nevada, December 16th, 1884, to Joseph Ira Earl and Elethra Callista Bunker. He was Joseph and Elethra's third child and eldest son. He had 2 brothers and 6 sisters. When he was a year old, his father married Agnes Viola Bunker, which was Callista's sister. Joseph and Agnes had 4 boys and 6 girls. There were 19 children in total.
Wow.
It was said that Ira resembled his father in both looks and character. In 1901, when Ira was 7, his mother died shortly after giving birth to Ella. The 2 families that had been living in separate homes across the street from each other moved in together into Elethra's, I believe Elethra's house. A quote from Owen Kennerall's book says, Ira literally raised Kenneth after the death of their mother, so far as to taking him to work on the farm or out on the range to look after the cattle. Ira was a great help to his father in looking after the farm work, supervising the chores around the place and taking care of the stock, but mostly in helping taking care of, loving, and supervising his younger brothers and helping rear them. Las Vegas was established in 1905. On September 12th, 1906, Ira, when he was 21 years old, left Bunkerville to go to Las Vegas to earn money so he could attend BYU. He found to work at a freight company and was able to accomplish his goal. On September 10th, he left 1907, he left Bunkerville for Provo and attended BYU. In January 1908, his father Ira was sustained bishop of Bunkerville, the Bunkerville ward. And in a letter to his father, Ira said, "Congratulations to you, dear father, as I hear you have been chosen bishop of the Bunkerville ward. You could have knocked me over with a feather when I heard the news. I know you are worth of such an office, but it struck me. Am I worthy to be a bishop's son? Yet I know that the appointment of a bishop does not consider the worthiness of a son. I hope to and am going to be as good as possible as you, my father. You have always set a good example worthy of imitation. Close quote. After school, Ira returned home and began working at the Potosi mine. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. Outside of Las Vegas. In 1914, while Ira was working at the mine, his younger brother Harold died, and Ira was able to make it from there back home to Bunkerville to attend the funeral. Later in 1914, Ira was running a store in Monopah, and in 1916, his father Joseph Ira wrote, quote, "The family is all home but Ira and Vida. Vida is at school in Panaca." And Ira was living in Las Vegas at the home of Newell and Meddy on 6th Street. Ira was working for the Clark Rano Company, which owned a grocery store and a freight forwarding company.
Wow.
Close quote. On the 30th of May, 1916, Ira married Ada Levisa Levitt from Bunkerville in the St. George Temple. They purchased a home at 312 South 6th Street for $1,800. At the time, it was the edge of town, and one person commented, "Why do they want to live clear out there?" It's right in town now, not only a few blocks from the strip.
Really?
They had 5 children, Don, Jack, Harold, Roy, and Connie. In 1916, the Las Vegas branch was originally attached to the Bunkerville ward. And then on April 30th, 1922, Las Vegas was made an independent branch. Ira was sustained branch president. On June 24th, 1924, the first Las Vegas ward was created, and Ira was named its bishop. He served until 1929. One of Ira's first orders of business was to construct a chapel. It was built on 6th Street and used till 1932, until a much larger chapel was built on 9th Street. Before the original chapel was built, church held meetings of dance hall above Beckley's clothing store. Can you guys still see me? Cut out.
Yes, we're
Okay.
hearing someone on Kendall. So we just need to mute whoever is Kendall.
Okay.
There we go.
Check in.
Well,
Okay,
I'll plug along.
keep going.
In 1932, after the new chapel was built, the Boulder branch expressed interest in purchasing the original chapel. They bought it for $1,750, cut it in half, and shipped it to Boulder City on two trucks. They had men sitting on top of the roof with heavy gloves to lift the wires over the home or over the chapel. It was used in Bunkerville until, I'm not sure, but it was sold to the
The
a
Episcopal.
Protestant denomination, and they moved it back to Las Vegas, where it sat at 832 North 25th Street, which is Eastern Avenue in Las Vegas. It sat there. It was used as a homeless shelter for a few years, and then it became St. Luke's Episcopal Church.
Huh.
And I've got some pictures. I hope you can see them.
Yeah,
That is the original building.
Hmm.
And this is after it was moved back. And this is St. Luke's Episcopal Church.
pretty-
I searched on Google Earth and a couple of realtor sites. And the second picture was in 2012, but it's since been torn down and it's just a vacant lot now.
Yeah, it's probably getting old.
Okay, Ira wanted the business for himself. Around 1930, he bought out the Home Ice Company and renamed it the Las Vegas Coal and Ice Company. Ira was not afraid of hard work and could unload a railroad car full of coal in a day with one helper. My
Wow.
dad remembered being that helper. He later became owner of the National Ice Company, who had been his competitor. And I found these in a site called Vintage Las Vegas. It didn't have the complete ad, but here is Ira's,
Show the other side. Other side.
that is a partial ad from Ira's Las Vegas Coal and Ice Company. Here's the full picture. And the caption reads, the two Las Vegas ice companies competing for customers by bragging about their products' purity and longevity. Their phone numbers were number 34 for the original ice company and number 75 for the second one. Soon after automobiles began to show up in sufficient number, he opened the Quaker State Motor Oil business. His business had a set of truck scales, I assume it was the coal company, to weigh the trucks full and empty, but he let people weigh their horses for free. Ira was a generous man and furnished coal to all the churches in Las Vegas for free. He also made sure the widows had enough coal for cooking and heating. His son Harold remembers him spreading wood chips in the mud after the rain so that kids could get to the high school without getting muddy. Ira served in several civic clubs, including Kiwanis Club, Boy Scouts. He served with the school board in Las Vegas for 8 years. They named a elementary school in his honor.
That's cool.
He ran as a Democrat and was elected Clark County Commission, elected to the Clark County Commission. He served as its chairman. He was later reelected for a second term. While he was commissioner, he never requested reimbursements for expenses for auto or funds that he had paid out personally.
Oh,
He also worked, one of his things, he got the hospital down there. And
Opened
did
the-
a
oh,
lot
opened
of
the
work with
hospital.
that.
yeah, I told him.
Okay. Ira had the opportunity to purchase the Royal Hotel Motor Hotel. He needed $18,000 that day for the down payment. He went to see Mr. Kendall or Mr. Kel Housel Sr. at his place of business and told him that he needed $18,000 that afternoon. Mr. Housel went to his safe and counted out the money and handed it to Ira.
Wow.
Quote, there was only a handshake on the deal and no papers drawn, signed, or even talked about. Such was Ira's reputation for honesty and integrity. Close quote. In addition to the Royal Hotel, Ira had built a boarding house behind his home on 6th Street and made it possible for his family to acquire several other motels. I remember when I was a kid, my mother worked down there for a summer, and there were 3 or 4 motels, and then they had the Bridger Hotel, which had a swimming pool, and us kids loved that.
Oh, you showed me that street. Yeah.
Okay, Ira and Visa had 5 children, 13 grandchildren, 45 great-grandchildren.
Wow.
I'm not sure of the number of the great-great-grandchildren, but I was told that Visa and Ira's great-great-great-grandchild will soon be here.
Wow.
Don was the oldest son. He married Ruth Moss from Elmira, Arkansas, and was the oldest. He was the first Eagle Scout in Southern Nevada. He served in the Switzerland mission before returning as World War II approached. He was reassigned to the Northern States Mission and spent most of his time in Grand Rapids, Michigan. He served as a pilot in World War II, and after finishing his education, he moved to Provo and became a music and religion teacher, conductor, and produced the operas for BYU. Don loved to travel and hauled all of his kids to Europe in 1960, where we traveled for months in a 1960 Volkswagen van. And then he taught in Paris for about 6 months.
Oh,
He was proud to be listed in the book Who's Who in the West. He had 4 boys, 15 grandchildren, served as a bishop and a high councilman. His younger brother, Jack Clark Earl, died his senior year of high school, right before his senior year of high school. He was only 16 years old. He was an excellent pianist and very popular with his peers. He was a very popular boy and everyone seemed to love him. Harold is the next in line.
got clever.
He was married to Hortense Klinger, who was born in Magna, Utah. He attended BYU and USC before returning to Las Vegas, where he had an accounting practice. He has 4 children and 14 grandchildren. Among his many church callings, he served as both a bishop and high councilman. 2 of his children are still in Vegas, but his daughters Nancy and Dorothy both moved to southern Utah, where Dorothy lives. His oldest daughter, Nancy Thomas, unfortunately died in May of this year.
I remember that.
Ira, the youngest boy, he became a Marine pilot. He was single most of his life after a very short marriage, and he served with the Marine Corps. He earned a law degree from George Washington Law School and practiced in Las Vegas. He was also a real estate investor, and he provided help and support for the extended family. Connie Mae is the youngest and the only girl. She married Richard Brown Stevens and attended BYU. They were married, I believe, in the Salt Lake Temple. They have 6 children and 18 grandchildren. I'm not sure how many great-grandchildren. I believe all of Connie's children are living in Las Vegas. Ira passed away April 28, 1957 at the Royal Hotel Motel while preparing his priesthood list. Ira Joseph was a great man and servant of his family, community, and church for 73 years. I also remember having Thanksgiving dinners down there with them.
Oh, did you?
And I would meet at Connie's house. She was a wonderful cook. And that's about all I have. I wish I would have known him, but I guess I'll see him someday.
We thank you very, very much. Thanks for the report. Great. And I have fond memories in Las Vegas of Connie and of course the whole family that I knew personally.
Yeah,
So,
they were great people.
great report. Thanks ever so much.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay.
I'd
Now,
like to say something, Bob.
yes, Dick.
I remember when Uncle Ira died, Mother telling us that he died studying the scriptures. It was a Sunday morning, and he was out at that motel, and he died at his desk with his scriptures open, resting on his chest, just as asleep. And she was always impressed, and I was impressed, that that's a wonderful way to go to sleep and to pass away with your open Book of Mormon on your chest.
Thanks, Dick. Great report. Love it. Okay. Now, let's see. Can we check and see if we have Cheryl Stuckey yet connected?
Cheryl, I still see that you're muted
And not connected
and
with us.
not, yeah, I don't see your video either. So
Okay.
just look down to the bottom of your screen, bottom left, and there will be a button that says unmute and a button that says start video. So that's what you will need to press to get on. But if you don't connect with us, then next reunion, then we'll be able to hear from you.
Okay. We will go ahead then with Aunt Nettie Levitt. Let's see, Whitworth, Lisa
Messenger.
Messenger. Lisa, where are you? Can we see- Lisa?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay,
Yes.
thank you, Lisa.
Hi, Lisa.
Please report on Aunt Nettie. Now, please give us, no one has given number of missionaries or number of church leaderships positions. If we collect that, perhaps Elaine can do the collecting afterwards. But Lisa, go ahead with your report on Aunt Nettie's great family.
Yeah, I love hearing stories, by the way. So I think this is wonderful. We can always get all the stats later. So please keep sharing stories, people. And you can email them to me and then I'll share them with everyone. But this is wonderful. Thanks.
Very good. Go ahead, Lisa.
I think I have a little of both. Hopefully
Great.
cover all bases. So I am Lisa Levitt Messenger, and I'm a great granddaughter of Nettie's. Nettie had 4 boys, and I come through Gerald. All right, so Grandma Nettie, I call her Grandma Nettie. She's my great grandma. Grandma Nettie was the firstborn to Joseph Ira Earl and Viola, and she is the baby. I know everybody knows this picture really well, in the Earl family
Yes.
stuff. Yeah, so
Oh,
she's the baby in the picture here that everybody knows. That's Nettie right there.
cute.
Nettie, as someone mentioned earlier, there's no high school in Bunkerville at the time. Everybody went off. And so she was fortunate with her next younger sister, Winona. They grew up pretty close from what I understand, from everything I can learn. They went off to the Stake Academy in St. George, and I think up in Provo for a year. And then she got married at age 22. She got married in St. George and then moved to Las Vegas after she got married. Her Newell had already come to Las Vegas. After he took his mission, he left Las Vegas to go to high school and then found work there. Some of the next few years here actually overlap with what Jerry was talking about for Ira, because I worked at the same place. This freight store that Jerry was talking about is the Clark Forwarding Company where Nettie's husband worked. And at 6th and Bridger, they live next door to each other. So they have a lot of common history there in early Las Vegas. Nettie and Newell were only in Las Vegas for about 5 years, but it was a really important 5 years. And this is the story that I want to share. As part of working for this Clark Forwarding Company in Las Vegas, Nettie's husband came across a lot of people. He dealt with customers in the store, sometimes had to make deliveries, and came to know as many people as he could. He made it a point to know as many people as he could. And as he talked to people out on his routes and in the store, one of the questions he wanted to ask everyone is, are you a Mormon? Do you know any Mormons? Am I the only Mormon in town? There's not very much here. This was right around 1913, and Las Vegas was very small. There's maybe 1,000 people. Everything was still very young and very dusty, a very, very, very super small town. Although there were churches here. I live in Las Vegas, that's why I say here. There was a Catholic church, and there was an Episcopalian church, and there was a Methodist church, and there was even a Christian Scientist church, but there were no LDS services. And so as he went around town, he wanted to see if he was the only guy here with a family that needed some LDS services. Well, after some time, he was able to compile a list of some LDS members, and he wrote home to the Moab Stake and said, it's time to organize a church here in Las Vegas. And this is how first a dependent branch was organized, which later became an independent branch, which later became a ward. But Nettie and Newell, in their home at 6th and Bridger, I do have this picture here to show you, in their living room held the first Sunday school services of Las Vegas. And so this is a picture of their living room here. So this is Nettie in the rocking chair, and this is her husband with their first baby in their lap in front of the piano. And there's a couple other guys in the picture here. There's a Bunker, there's Brian Bunker and Lamond. I think his last name was Thomas in this picture. This picture is down at the UNLV Special Collections, where they collect historical stuff. And the story is going to be featured in an upcoming documentary, which is what I wanted to tell everybody. There's a BYU professor by the name of Fred Woods. He was here about a year and a half ago, right before COVID started. He started research here, interviewing people, going to UNLV Special Collections. He's writing a book and putting together a film documentary of the church in Las Vegas, and Nettie and Newell's story is going to be in there. So we are very excited for when that comes out. It's been delayed through COVID. I don't even know what the current deadline is, but we're excited for whenever that may be.
Please, Lisa, please keep us
Yeah.
posted on the details, and I'll share it with everyone.
I absolutely will. It's very exciting. Thank you. They were only here in Las Vegas for about 5 years. Then they did a short stint in Overton and then went up to Delta, Utah. Her husband found some work in a sugar beet factory up there in Delta. It was at this time that her husband Newell became ill. And at first they weren't sure how bad it was. They didn't know what it was. They're going from doctor to doctor, asking anybody for help. He declined somewhat quickly and passed away rather unexpectedly and tragically for Grandma Nettie. She was devastated.
It's okay, Lisa.
So Grandma Nettie, she's about 31 years old, I think I figured out. 31 years old, and she's got 4 boys, 8 years and younger, that she's got to raise. Her dad, Joseph Earl, gets on the train and to Utah and helps her settle a few things, and brings her home to Overton, where she raises her boys with her parents and her family. Several years later, when the boys were grown up, about 12 years later, she did remarry. She married a Whitwer. Funny enough, he also lived in Las Vegas on a ranch. So she gets married and moves to Las Vegas again. She lives on the old ranch property, which is also the same of the Las Vegas Old Mormon Fort property. That was also short-lived. Her second husband became ill and passed away after 17 months. Not even a year and a half later. So in her whole life, Grandma Nettie was only married for about 9 years in her whole life. So she was given a tough hand and did not have the typical Mormon wife life that maybe a lot of other people at the time had, a lot of women at the time had. But because of her time and her ties to living at the Old Mormon Fort here in Las Vegas, she joined the DUP. And I know a lot of you know about the DUP. It stands for Daughters of Utah Pioneers. That's significant. I wanted to talk about that for a second because here in Las Vegas, the Old Mormon Fort was under the threat of demolishment more than once. During the 50s and 60s, it was all that any preservationist could do was to keep the building standing. Everybody else just wanted to knock for some modern development. The DUP is credited with saving the Old Mormon Fort during about 20 years worth of work. They organized the community and they fought, and battle after battle they fought. I have one thing to show you, but really I have several. Many times the DUP was in the newspaper, and here on the cover of the newspaper in 1967 is Grandma Nettie at the Mormon Fort with the DUP. I love the work that she did with the DUP. It was absolutely amazing. It was dedicated, amazing work, and they saved the Old Mormon Fort here in Las Vegas. Okay, what I call fun family facts. Okay, so Nettie had 4 boys who had 21 children, who had 69 children, who had 181 children, and who I think have had 13 on the next generation now. I think that might be more, but I couldn't confirm everything. So that's 181 great grandchildren plus at least 13 great grandchildren for Nettie. I don't have a number for missions, but I did want to mention some of the really fascinating exotic ones that are just fascinating to me anyway. We have Sweden, we have Hungary, Switzerland, Argentina, Guam, Costa Rica a couple of times, many times, Spanish California, a Haitian mission in Fort Lauderdale. I know my Uncle Robert met his wife while serving in Italy, and my dad served in Bolivia. Many bishops, many men in the bishopric, more than once. Women serve Relief Society presidents more than once. It's unbelievable. I wanted to mention long marriages. I think that's an amazing accomplishment to stay married a long time. Longest marriage in the family that I can find is at 58 years and still going. 58 years. We have three other marriages that have hit the 50-year mark and 2 more that are going to be pretty quick. We've got one that'll hit their 50th anniversary in February, and I know my own parents will reach theirs in March. Educational accomplishments. So I knew we had some smart people in my family, and I really mean this as other people. As I started to gather some of these statistics and information, I started to feel about this small and but unintelligent. Okay, Nettie's son Max earned a PhD in educational psychology, and this was while serving in the Air Force and moving a lot. One of his daughters, who I think is on one of these squares somewhere here in our meeting, said that she went to 9 or 10 schools growing up. They really did move a lot. And so while Max is working or serving in the Air Force, he managed to get his PhD in educational psychology. I think that's phenomenal. I think it's amazing. Janice herself went on to earn a bachelor's in English and a master's of education. She was elected to 2 terms of her school board. Between her 8 children, a PhD, a master's degree, a medical degree, someone's an oncologist, her son, 5 bachelors and associates. One of her daughters is a Utah State Associate Superintendent of School. The example of education and Max's and Janice's line is just very well set and followed. Gerald's son, Robert, has a PhD in agricultural sciences. He lived in Brazil for about 4 years working for DuPont and did amazing things down there. But his top job was serving as Director of Plant Industry for the State Department of Food and Agriculture for the state of California. He is now retired. He is now retired, working as a master tax advisor for H&R Block, and all of his kids have college degrees. I have a cousin with a master's in collaborative piano. He writes symphonies at the University of Utah.
Wow.
You can see videos on YouTube. They're beautiful. They're amazing, really amazing. And we have firefighters and paramedic engineer and stair nurses and yarn nurses and so many teachers I lost count and all sorts of things. Very motivated and committed and educated and intelligent people in Eddie's family.
Thank you ever so much. We really appreciate that. Great report, and we love all of your information, and thanks again. We're running out of time.
Hold on, I have to say something. So Lisa, thank you so much for giving those numbers. And I heard a few numbers from some of the others I forget. If you can email me those numbers, then I will, I wanted to keep track of the number of descendants from Joseph and the 2 Bunker sisters. So thank you so much for gathering all that. That's fascinating.
Okay, now we're running out of time to stay within the 1 hour. Let's not try to make a connection with Sister Stuckey. Let's go to Richard, my brother Richard, for his report on the Howland research that he has and the story that he has carried over from the last July 24th report when the system did not work for him. So Richard, please go ahead. 10 minutes.
I just wanted to report that Gary Earl has done a marvelous job in preparing some genealogical research that ties in with the historical department of the church, who did a marvelous job in preparing genealogical history for the Henry Howland family. This chart was prepared and was on the wall in the visitor center of the Park City Visitor Center for the church during the Olympics. It's a marvelous chart and was reported by Mary Jane Weaver in an editorial in the Church News. And in that editorial, she describes the contribution to the United States history as well as church history of Henry Howland. Henry Howland had 3 sons. They all immigrated. He actually had 4. 1 remained in England. 3 of those immigrated to the United States. The one son is probably the most famous. His name was also Henry, named after his father. He lived and in America, became quite famous because of his family. His children included as far as the historical report goes, they included that there are now over 5 million living descendants of Henry Howland. Among his descendants were President Franklin D. Roosevelt, President George Walker Bush, and President George Herbert Walker Bush. The most important, however, of his descendants, that's Henry Howland, the most important of his descendants were Emma Smith and the prophet Joseph Smith. Both of them were distant cousins, but both were the descendants of Henry Howland. That's an astounding thing to me. Also, the next son was Arthur Howland, and Arthur became his descendants. One of his descendants became quite famous. She was Jenny Jerome, who married Randolph Churchill, who became the mother of Sir Winston Churchill, of course, the Prime Minister of England during the Second World War. But the most important of those ancestors were Joseph Ira Earl and Zella Earl Wells, including Robert Earl Wells, and now me. Can you believe that? Richard Wells. And I'm on that chart, but only in my home. I put myself on the chart. Let me show you the chart.
Oh,
This is
wow.
the chart, if you can see it. And it has the 3 sons and their descendants, including the prophet Joseph and Emma Smith, Winston Churchill, our grandfather, Joseph Ira Earl, right here, my mother, Zella Earl, right here, and me. I took the liberty of putting my picture on there. I couldn't believe it because they left me off when they did this for the church history chart in the visitor center in Park City. But it now hangs in the Genealogical Society in the old Joseph Smith Hotel, the Hotel Utah.
Uncle Dick's,
Yes.
Dina Fawcett just asked on the chat, and speaks for all of us, can we get a copy of that chart? Can you at least maybe take a photo of the chart and then send it to me, and then I can send it to everyone? But that is really cool.
Sure, we can send that. I got it from the church. I don't know if they would still make duplicates for anyone, but
I'll track it down.
I got mine. And it didn't cost me anything. I thought they were going to charge me some kind of a ransom to get that printed.
I'll track it down.
I'll take a photo of it and present it to you. Now, this is it. The chart was also discussed in this. I'll show you the copy of this. This is the copy of the Church News editorial by Sarah Jane Weaver.
Lift it up just a bit so we can see it. Okay.
The headlines: expect to find the hand of the Lord in your life. Now, every one of us will have tender mercies or even absolute miracles in their early lives that extended their lives so that they are now able to have posterity. I'm convinced that the Lord looks after everyone, particularly those that are in the genealogical patriarchal lines, in the lineage lines. But those who have the covenants and have these genealogical bloodlines we all can have this, expect to find the hand of the Lord in your life. My brother has had that. I've had it. Many of us have had those wonderful, wonderful history stories. Now, as far as that history is concerned, we all can contribute, and sometimes someone needs to do it. But I've been very impressed with what Gary Earl has done, and what Brother Earl did over in the Joseph Ira Earl history. The 2-volume history are phenomenal. And this is a book that is done that is called The Boy Who Fell Off the Mayflower.
Lift it up just a bit. There we go.
This little children's book is a marvelous history telling of Henry Howland. He fell off the Mayflower in a vicious storm in the Atlantic Ocean, and deep down into the ocean, he discovered, as he was falling to his death, a rope that was attached to that sailing vessel. And he grabbed hold of the rope for dear life, and the sailors on board pulled him up through the roaring seas and rescued him. And he's the one that now has 5 million ancestors, living ancestors in the United States, including all of those presidents of the United States. Wonderful, incredible stories. And Elder Ballard tells this history in one of his talks about Henry Howland. We have great ancestry, incredible. I could tell other stories, but I think about Henry Howland, but I think you probably are out of time.
Thank you very much, Richard. We appreciate you and what you've done. You're Helen also. Thanks for your report, very timely. I like Elder Ballard's comment that there's no such thing as coincidence. We're all tied together by bloodlines that go back to heroic people that did heroic things. And one relative, one cousin commented to me that, hey, Bob, what we're doing with these Zoom connections, he says, I'm now praying for all of my Earl cousins. We don't know, there's so many, we don't know all of them, but we're praying for all of our Earl family cousins, and I am too. That's a daily process now, to include prayers for all of our Earl cousins and others. So thanks. I think that we've used up our time,
Well,
Elaine.
I told everyone that we would, I'll leave the chat open for those who want to stay on and chat with each other. You can stay on as long as you want. I'll just leave this open. I don't have any time limit. I do have just a few matters of business, if you don't mind. They're just, I'm missing still some information. And so I'm just going to real quickly go down these and just ask for that. I don't need any feedback from you, but just note that I need information from Flora Jones Colton's family. So Flora is Lois Emily's
Lois, yeah.
second. So I'm missing some information on her. So get in touch with me. Let's see, Robert Adams, who is the grandson of Lois. I don't have his email. I would also like someone from Lois's family to total up the total number of descendants. And I would like that from everybody. So even if you can't total up all the descendants from your grandfather, great grandfather, whatever, just your own individual family would be great. And then I can add them all up. Let's see, I still need a lot of information from Alethra Callista's family. So Cheryl, if you can hear me, I don't have anyone's emails or phone numbers except for 3 of you.
Cheryl, please give your information to Elaine. The number that I have for you for your telephone doesn't respond anymore. I've called and called.
Yeah, no, it does work. I've heard from her, but anyway, and I know that Becky Smith, you're getting me more information, contact info from your family. That's awesome, from Vida's family. Anyway, well, I won't read all of these. I am missing information from every single one of the 19 kids. So if someone will just take a look at the directory, you can see what's missing, and then you can send me all that.
A last bit of information, the next meeting, the next Earl family Zoom meeting. Surely we have 250 or so. Maybe we can get up to 300 or more.
Yeah, right now we only have 49 participants. We didn't get as many as we did last time.
Oh,
So,
I'm sorry to hear about that.
yeah.
The next meeting will be January the 23rd. That's a Sunday, that's closest to 3 months more, January the 23rd. And it will be the Aunt Winona Whitwer family, Aunt Vida Hardy family, Uncle Milton Earl family, and the Uncle Ken Earl family. So those are the 4 families that are next in order of birth of the aunts and uncles that are from the 2 Earl Bunker wives. So thanks. The original meeting was to honor Sylvester Henry Earl, the great-grandfather, the first one in the church. Then next, this series will be to honor the Joseph Ira Earl families. And we'll catch up with Elithra Cox, cousin Cheryl Stuckey. Don't know what happened with the connection there. Happy to see Tom Wendell, a cousin, is on the line here. But so I don't have anything else from me. Thanks to all of you. Great job.
I have one more thing.
Oh, Elaine, go
Sorry.
ahead.
Now, I said this earlier, but if people will send me any memories that they have of any of your, well, for the first cousins, your parents or aunts and uncles, and then for those of us in the second generation, the second cousins, if whatever memories you have of the original 19 kids, well, I guess, yeah, 2 of them were babies when they died. And then Harold was not very old. Anyway, so of the others, if you have any memories at all that you want to share, just send them to me and I'll put them together in a document and send them out. But that would be fascinating. So, and thank you everyone for your comments on the chats. I have recorded this and I will send this out. And you know, I think I'll just go ahead and I'll stop the recording now, but I will go ahead and leave the chat on for whoever wants to stay on and visit.
I'm going to close, Bob.
Oh, thanks.
All right. Thank you, Uncle Dick. And thank you
Okay.
for everyone who's participating and for everyone who
Great
talked
jo-
about their families.
Great job, Dick. Thanks again.
Thank you
And
all.
thanks to your Helen.
Thank you so much, cousins. This was delightful.
Thank
Oh,
you.
Thank you for
Donna.
doing that.
Good
Thanks,
to see
Elaine,
you,
for putting
Donna.
all this together.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's been a pleasure.
Dina.
Thank you.
It was wonderful. Could we get a copy of that article about the hand of the Lord in your life?
Oh, that's a good
That-
idea, Uncle Dick.
Yeah, I'd love to read that.